Korea's Deputy Foreign Minister has been speaking to Al Jazeera, and he said that Pyongyang does not take orders from the United States and can and will protect itself. In an exclusive interview, Sin Hong Chol says the North Korean armed forces are on high alert to respond to any action from the US.
우리는 평화를 사랑하지만 절대로
We are seeking peace, not begging for it. We will defend the peace and security of our nation by our own might. Our army is at a state of maximum alert to respond to the US military build-up. If we notice any sign of assault on our sovereignty, our army will launch merciless military strikes against the US aggressors wherever they may exist, from the remote US lands to the US military bases in the Korean Peninsula, like those of Japan and elsewhere. The recent US manoeuvres and the previous ones, which the US keeps saying are annual defensive routines, have revealed the hostile intentions of the US. Those moments fall within the scenario of preemptive strikes that are directly targeting our Supreme Command and strategic positions, like our missile and nuclear capabilities. The new Trump administration should look to the world with open eyes. The time of dictating orders by brandishing the US military might has gone. If those businessmen in power in the US thought they could intimidate us with military or sanction threats, as the Obama administration used to do and failed, they will soon find out such threats are useless. Unless the US abandons its hostile policies against North Korea, there will be no chance for any future bilateral meetings at any level. It is a prerequisite that Washington gives up those antagonistic policies against us. The six-party talks aimed at making the Korean Peninsula free of nuclear weapons were throttled at birth. They no longer exist. The nuclear weapon in our possession is not an illusion. It is not a commodity that can be traded for American dollars, nor is it for sale. So it cannot be put on the negotiating table with the aim of taking it away from us.
All right, we're going to go live now to our correspondent Wayne Hay, who is in the Japanese capital, Tokyo, where, of course, Mike Pence, US Vice President, is due to arrive on Tuesday. But, Wayne, this is the kind of tough rhetoric that we've come to expect from North Korea. But this time the context is one of particularly high tension.
It certainly is, Martine. Very interesting comments there from the Deputy Foreign Minister of North Korea. But as you mentioned, not necessarily anything new in terms of what the Japanese people and the Japanese government have become used to in terms of the threats coming from Pyongyang of the possibility of an attack on Japanese soil. We've seen that several of the missile tests that the North Koreans have conducted have been aimed towards Japanese territory. We've seen the Japanese government over the last couple of years responding by trying to prepare its citizens for the possibility of an attack by conducting things like evacuation drills in some areas. So to a large extent, nothing new coming out of those comments. Yes, we are in a period of heightened tension. Yes, it is a very dangerous situation, but to a large extent the people of Japan have become used to these threats coming out of Pyongyang. Having said that, we heard from the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe earlier on Monday addressing the parliament here in Tokyo, and he said that it is important to maintain peace through diplomatic efforts. At the same time, he said that dialogue for the sake of dialogue would be meaningless, and we need to put pressure on North Korea so that it will seriously respond to calls for dialogue. So clearly they're a sign that the Japanese government is on the same page as the government of the United States President Donald Trump, that the time for talk is over. No, they're not talking about any direct military action on Pyongyang at the moment, but clearly there's a feeling in the government in Japan that the time for talk is over and some other serious pressure needs to go on North Korea.
Well, that's exactly what the Deputy Foreign Minister of North Korea was saying. He said that the six-party talks are pretty much dead.
Yes, exactly. And I think the chances of the United States government under President Donald Trump engaging directly with the regime in North Korea are remote, even though we saw during the election campaign in the United States Donald Trump saying that he would sit down and have a burger with Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea. So now really we wait to see where China sits in all of this, because the United States have said over the last couple of days that China is part of its plans, is on board with the plan to put new pressure on North Korea. Now, we don't know exactly how they're going to do that. Is it going to be in the form of even tougher sanctions on the regime there? Clearly, we may know more about that in the next couple of days. As you mentioned a few moments ago, the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, is due in Tokyo on Tuesday. That was going to be primarily a visit to talk about a greater trade relationship between the United States and Japan. Clearly, the situation with North Korea has now taken on greater importance.
All right, thank you for that. Wayne Hay live